All right, welcome everyone to Mindset Monday. Super excited to be here as always. So today, I'd like to start off by saying, I love doing these Mindset Monday things, but I want to address, I'm a passionate guy, and I just want to make it really clear that when I talk about these types of subjects, I get very passionate, and sometimes um, it can come off even intimidating. I've gotten some feedback from people that, when they first get to know me, they're like, wow, he can be intimidating. But then when they get to know me, they realize that it's really just a form of passion. And so I'm really passionate about these types of topics. And the reason for that is because, um, I've come a very long way in my life. I was a middle school science teacher. I had the ability, or not the ability, I had the opportunity to work with young teenagers early on in a difficult part of their life. And I got to see transformations in them. And, I am a person who has reinvented myself multiple times, just like I'm sure anybody who's watching this, you probably had the opportunity to reinvent yourself multiple times. And I share all of this because we all have the ability to do this. And we have the ability to make our life anything that we want. And I believe that you have everything that you need to make your life as amazing as you want it to be. It's just a matter of tapping into all those little pieces and, tapping into what makes you great and running with that. And so I get passionate about these things because I see how much my life has changed over the last 10, 15 years as I've tapped into these things within myself. And I want everyone to be able to experience that, because if we can all just tap into what makes us great, if we all are just trying to be the best version of ourselves, if we are all just being the best stewards of our life that we possibly can, leaving things better than when we found them, think of how amazing the world would be. Rather than looking for how do we get ours, how do we make the world better? How do we make each other better? How do we leave the world better off than it was before we arrived? So I do get exceptionally passionate about this stuff because I believe in it, and I believe in you, and I believe that the more conversations we have like this is my way of giving back. This is my way of being a good steward for my life. And so I just want to make it clear that my passion here um, does not come from a place of anger, a place of dissatisfaction or anything. It comes from a place of I believe in you. I believe in your ability to create something awesome. That's where it comes from. So today I want to talk about what I call is the three R's. So I think we can all agree that the world is always chaotic, right? So we say, yeah, the world's so chaotic right now. Well, people have been saying that for the last like 2000 years. So yes, there's always chaos in our world. If we drill down into what's happening specifically right now in the real estate market in the United States, it's a tough market. We've got lots of listings coming on the market, generally speaking. We've got fewer buyers. We've got high interest rates. We've got political turmoil. We've got all of these things happening right now, and it can be really chaotic. And if you're anything like me, you know, old Dan used to want to give up in really difficult situations. I don't do that anymore. And, so what I have had to do is I have had to learn from other people how to work through really difficult times, really challenging times. And so right now is no different. I'm not doing as many deals as I would like to do. My team is not growing as fast as I would like it to grow. And so, how do I continue to move forward in a positive way, even amidst all the chaos? And so, for me, what it comes back to is the three R's. And so, what are the three R's? It's resiliency, resourcefulness, and responsibility. So, I want to start with resiliency. So, first of all, what is resiliency? Well, I guess the easiest way to put it is resiliency is our ability to weather the storm. And as I was planning this out for today, I wanted to think of, okay, what are some stories of examples of what it looks like to be resilient, resourceful, responsible. And the best story that came to my mind is one that's pretty new, it fresh in my mind, I guess I'll say. There's an agent on our team, and she is maybe the most resilient person I know. She's just been going through a tremendous amount of difficulties in her life, different things happening, injuries, and all of these things. And she's for the last year just trying to get traction. And it seems like when she starts to get a little bit of traction, she fell and shattered her shoulder. And she was starting to get traction on her health and all of these things that were really important. Then she shattered her shoulder and backtrack, and then healed that up very quickly, and then started getting back on the horse, and then got super sick and ended up getting pneumonia and went into the hospital. And through all of this, her attitude, her vision was, there's a way through, there's a way through, I can do this, there's a way through, this is all part of God's plan, like I got this. And she was constantly looking for, what can I do to keep moving forward? What can I do to make sure that even though I backtrack, that my attitude is where it needs to be? And she's inspiring to me, because even in the storm, she's always looking for the positive. She's resilient. She knows that there's a way through. And so with this whole piece, so all right, so that's what resiliency looks like. So how do we become more resilient? And keep in mind that I'm speaking here from a place of learning from other people, like this lady on our team, and watching them, being taught by them, being mentored by them. Jesse has been a great mentor for me on this front, being resilient. So how do we be more resilient? Well, this is a very broad subject, right? But the way I break it down is, when we talk about resiliency, there's really three components of it. There's mental, emotional, and energetic. And there's probably more, but this is kind of how I break it down: mental, emotional, and energetic. So if we want to be resilient, how do we improve our mental state, our emotional state, and our energetic state, or call it your physical state? And there's a lot of different ways to do this. And I'm not going to go through all of these in, great detail, but if we look at the mental state, how do we improve our mental state so that we can improve our resiliency? Well, this is something that I have spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy learning how to develop. How do we develop our mental state? Well, number one, we have to want to improve our mental state. We have to have a desire and a drive to improve the way that we see the world. So when I talk about mental state, I really talk about our view of the world. It's our mindset. How do we see the world? How do we interact with the world? When something happens to us, what's our natural, response to those kinds of things? Here's the thing. Our mental state is all learned behaviors. It is all learned behaviors. It is all behaviors that we choose to partake in. So at any moment, instantly, we can change our mental state. We have the ability to go from, woe is me, this isn't working, this is too hard, blah, 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 to, I got this. This will not beat me. I will beat this. We have the ability to change our mental state. A perfect example of that is, I hurt my shoulder pretty bad about 2 years ago. And it took me like 8 months. I play basketball twice a week. It was really hard for me not to be able to play basketball. But eventually I got back, and I just could not get my shot back. It was so frustrating. I'm like, I've recovered from my injury. I should be able to shoot the ball. And finally, I realized that I was telling myself a story. I had a mental block. I was telling myself, oh, one day you'll get your shot back. One day. Your shoulder is holding you back. Your shoulder. It was stopping me from being able to do it. And when I finally just started retraining my brain to say, you're a good shooter, remember? You're a good shooter. You're a good shooter. You're a good shooter. You're a good shooter. All of a sudden, I got my shot back. We have the ability to manipulate our mindset and force it into submission to do what we want it to do. So when we talk about resiliency, one of the first things we have to do is we have to fix our mind. I meditate, there's all these different things that you can do. Meditate, reading books, listening to podcasts, hiring a coach, getting a mentor, all of these things, surrounding yourself with people who are going to actually pick you up rather than bring you down. There's all these different things that we can do to improve our mental mindset, which then directly correlates with our emotional state. When our mindset is, I can't do it, it's too much, this isn't working, we all know what that feels like. We know that tightness that we feel throughout our body. We know the aches and pains we feel in our neck. We get that. That is emotional stress caused by the way we're thinking. So if we want to be resilient, number one, we have to change the way we think. Number two, that will impact our emotional state. And there's lots of different tricks too to impact our emotional state. Once again, going back to meditation, breath work. And then that also takes us into the third one, which is our energetic state. And these are all very linked together. When we improve our mental state, emotional state, we improve our energetic state. And when we feel energetic, when we feel hopeful, and when we think positive, what's to stop us from doing anything we want? Absolutely nothing. So when we talk about resiliency, we're talking about improving our experience of life in the here and now, not when I make $1 million, not when I get that team lead over, not when I blah, no, now, today. We have the power to do it today. And so if we're not doing that, it's really hard to be resilient. So what are some ways that we can improve our energetic state? Number one, improve our mental state and our emotional state. Number two, we can improve our physical state. So how do we do that? We exercise, we eat right, we get enough sleep, we set up routines in the morning. Once again, we meditate, we give ourselves time to re-energize, right? We give ourselves breaks. We create a balance between work and our life and all these kinds of things. So once again, I could go into a bazillion different directions with all of this, but the reality is, if we want to be resilient, we have to have a strong mind, which influences our emotions. We need to have strong, powerful emotions, and we need to have a strong energetic state. And we have 100% control over our energetic state. It's just a matter of making a choice. And I know this from experience, because for a long time I was making the choice to be a victim, and it didn't work well for me. I'll just leave it at that. And when I made the choice to be a powerful being of change in my own life, my life got exponentially better. So let's move on from resiliency to the second R, which is resourcefulness. So we have, in fact, when we just started this call, we were talking about how we have all these amazing resources all around us. We've got amazing leadership in our organization, providing all of these opportunities for us to grow and learn and be good at what we do. But at the end of the day, if we're not tapping into them, they might as well not be there, right? It doesn't matter unless we tap into it. But here's the bottom line, and I want to make this a clear delineation. Nobody's coming to save you. That doesn't mean nobody's coming to help you. It doesn't mean nobody's providing any resources for you, but nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. I have to save myself. I've got a great support. I've got my wife, I've got my kids, I've got all the leadership here within EXP and all of these other things. I've got amazing support, but nobody's saving me. Nobody is going to call my clients. Nobody is going to list that house for me. Nobody is going to grow my team. Nobody is going to take that call that I need to take. I have to do it. I have to be resilient and resourceful to figure these things out. And so when I talk about resourcefulness, really what I'm talking about is you are powerful. You are powerful beyond belief. And one of the biggest things that I see with people that is so hard for me to see is the potential that is not realized because they want someone to save them. They want someone to do the work for them. They want someone to give them leads. They want someone to make them money. They want someone to give them a job. Instead of being resourceful and finding the lead. Getting the lead, getting the work, serving that client so well that they can't help but refer you, That's resourcefulness. I don't know the answer to this. I'll figure it out. I remember when I was teaching in middle school, um, there's a big aerospace thing right next to where I taught. It's called Lockheed Martin. You know, they do rockets and all that stuff. So I literally had students in my science class who had rocket scientist parents, and they would come in and they would ask these amazing questions. And I had to get really good as a middle school science teacher of telling my students, that's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that. Let me get back to you. That's resourcefulness. When I was at my old brokerage, I did not have the level of support that I have here. But at some point, I made the decision that I was not going to fail at real estate. And so I started taking people out to lunch, picking their brain, stealing their ideas with their permission, and building a business based off of what they were doing. That's resourcefulness. Nobody built my business. I built my business with the help of other people. I did not do it alone, but nobody saved me. Nobody built my business for me. I built it for me with the help of a lot of amazing people. You have that opportunity here. In fact, you have a better opportunity than I did because EXP is freaking awesome and our organization is freaking awesome. We have all the resources we need. We just have to be resourceful and actually leverage and utilize all of these resources. Nobody's coming to save you, but lots of people are here to help you. So be resourceful. Tap into those resources. Don't just go to classes to say I'm working. Go to classes to learn and implement. That's resourcefulness. I don't know the answer to this. I don't know what to say to this person. Go figure it out. Don't wait for someone else to, the perfect person and this and that and whatever, an opportunity passes us. But no, go figure it out. Go screw it up. Make a mistake. Look foolish in front of somebody. It doesn't matter because you're resourceful and you're resilient. You can't screw it up when you're resourceful and when you're resilient because there's always new opportunities when we embody those two ideals. And this takes me to the third one, responsibility. So what is responsibility? Well, I think there's really two parts to it. I've heard a lot of people break it down to, it's your ability to respond to a situation, which I agree with. But in order for us to be able to respond to a situation with a conscious choice, it means that we have to have some kind of ownership, which means that we know we have a choice. So in other words, your life is where it is right now. There's no changing that. There's no changing that. That's a fact. So here's where it gets muddy. You have a choice of how you look at your life. You can look at your life and go, well, my life sucks, and this person did this to me, and it's their fault. This person did this, and so this is why I do this over here, and this person made me mad, and this person did this over there. So if we continue, the longer we continue to look outward and say it's that's the reason why I don't have the life that I want. The more we look outward and the more we blame other people, the less power and control we have to be able to respond. If you want to be able to respond, you must, I'll say it again, if you want to be able to respond in a conscious manner, you have to take 100% total responsibility for your life in its entirety. There are people who have been through astoundingly horrible situations in their life, and somehow they were able to come out on the other side of that stronger. There's other people who go through horrible situations and it destroys them. I believe that there's a choice in there somewhere. I don't want anybody to go through horrible things, and I'm not saying that it wasn't horrible. I'm not saying that you didn't go through something that nobody should have to endure. I am not saying that. I have empathy for the fact that we all go through tough stuff, some tougher than others. But at the end of the day, until we take personal responsibility for our choice of how we react to that situation, until we do that, we have zero control. We are powerless. We are a victim. We are handcuffed to our past. But once we make a choice and we decide, I'm not going to let that define me anymore. I'm fully responsible for my life, 100% fully responsible for my life. At that point, we have choice. And it's in choice that we gain power. Because now I can choose what I think. I could choose what I feel. I could choose my energy. I can choose, whether I'm going to be resourceful. I can choose to be resilient. I can choose to push through the pain. I can choose to quit. And sometimes quitting is the right thing. This whole idea that quitting, you never quit, that's BS. Sometimes it makes sense to quit. But it needs to come from a very conscious, well thought out place rather than, oh, it's hard, I'm going to quit. The two different things, right? And, oh, I quit just at the drop of a hat. That's not resiliency, right? But if you're resilient at some point and you're resourceful and you're also aware of the choices you're making and you're responsible, you can look at a situation and go, this situation isn't serving me. I quit and walk away from it confidently. That's the difference between being a victim. This is too hard. I can't do this. I have to quit because I just can't do it, versus I'm walking away from this because this doesn't serve me. And I want to conserve that energy so that I can go put it over here because this is serving me. That's power. That's power. This isn't something that you guys need to wait 10 years from now to go get. This is a today job. This is a right now job. I've shared this story before, and I'll share it again, briefly. But back in my mid-30s, about 10 years ago, this was my changing point. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I had 2 kids at home, and I came to a crossroads, and I had to make a choice. Am I going to get better? Or am I just going to end it? I went from victim mentality in moment 1 to I'm going to fix this and nothing will stop me in moment 2. Like that. When we make the choice to get better and to take full responsibility for our life, we are no longer a victim. You are not a victim of anything anybody did to you unless you allow yourself to be a victim. When we take full responsibility for our life and move away from victim mentality, we gain 100% control over our life and we become powerful beyond belief. I believe in this so much. I said at the beginning of this, I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell, because I know what happened to my life when I made that choice. Imagine what would have happened to my wife and my kids had I made a different choice. That choice has had a huge impact on myself and on the world and on my family and all the people that I interact with. You have that power. You have the ability to make a choice right now. Who do you want to be? How do you want your life to look? How do you want to feel? You can impact all of these things immediately. It just comes from a choice. And so I'll close out with this. I mentioned earlier stewardship. And I remember my dad a long time ago. It's funny. My dad was one of the people that I blamed for a really long time. He was the problem in my life. And don't get me wrong. There was a lot of things, but my dad wasn't the problem. It was my reaction to my dad that was the problem. All of that aside, there was a couple key lessons that he taught me in life. One of the things that he taught me, I think we can all relate to this story. I took a wrench or something off of his desk, off of his workbench, and left it on the floor somewhere or whatever. Right? We all know this, right? And Dad comes in and put my tools away, blah, blah, blah. But there was one thing that he said, and that was, whenever you borrow something from somebody, you will always return it to the same place in as good or better condition than when you borrowed it. And I don't know what it was about him saying that, but that always stuck with me. And I really try to live my life that way now. And so as flawed as my dad was, there was a couple like really big lessons that he taught me. This was one of them. And so I think of that all the time. Am I being a good steward of this life? Am I leaving the world better off than when I found it? When that barista at the coffee shop is being a jerk and you can tell they're just having a bad day, do I lean in and act like a jerk to them? Or do I make a conscious choice to try to brighten their day? When somebody flips me off in traffic, do I flip them off back? Or do I laugh and wave? These are all choices that we make every single day. And I am far from perfect. But I do work hard to be a good steward of this life. And once again, this is something I'm really passionate about. I believe that if we were all just trying to make the world better than how we found it, the world would be a much different place. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this stuff. So just to recap, and then we'll jump off here. The 3 R's. We're in a tough situation right now. A lot of chaos. Market might not be exactly the way you want it. But you don't have to take my word for it. But I would venture a guess, and I would challenge you to experiment with, if you could develop your resiliency a little bit better, mental, emotional, physical. If you could develop those pieces of yourself a little bit more, how might that help your resiliency? I don't know. Experiment with it. Do a little science experiment. Number 2, resourcefulness. What are the resources that you should be tapping into that you're not? Yeah, you're going to the classes and, you watched the video and blah, 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 but you didn't implement it. What are some things you could actually implement to be resourceful to save yourself? Throw yourself a life preserver. Number 3, responsibility. Where are you playing the victim in your life? Where can you make a choice to be powerful? Find that moment and do some work on that. That would be my challenge to you. Don't take my word for it. I know how it impacted my life and I believe in it. Maybe you don't. That's fine. But just experiment with it and see what happens. And then the last piece, just be a great steward. Make the world a better place. Let's simplify and just do the best we can to make the world better than the way we found it. So appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here on a Monday morning, and I hope you have a great week.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.